The reason we struggle with insecurity is because we compare behind the scenes with everybody else's highlight reel. This quote, I'm sure, speaks to most of you. I'm sure at some point you've compared yourself to somebody that you've seen on social media or felt insecure because you can't measure up to somebody that you saw slightly more attractive on Instagram. I wanted to talk to you today about the role that social media plays in promoting unhealthy lifestyles and beauty image. Why should you care? This issue pertains to you even if you don't even realize it. Social media promotes unhealthy lifestyles and creates insecurity for so many people. My goal today is to inform you how social media plays negative roles in your life by first discussing the history of social media and the modern development, and we will also examine how it affects all those who partake in these platforms. And finally, we will consider how this issue manifests itself from your smartphone into your own subconscious for those who use it. Let's go ahead and take a focus on the history of social media and how massive this platform is. So we're all familiar with Pinterest, TikTok, Facebook, and Twitter. So according to bbc.org, social media has been around since the early 2000s, but has advanced so much within the past 5 years, and it's growing at exponential rates. People have become so addicted to social media and consider it a necessity in lives, especially up-and-coming influencers or social media influencers. According to InfluencingMarketHub.com, over the last decade, we have seen social media grow rapidly in importance. According to January 2019, We Are Social report, 3.484 billion people actively use social media. That's 45% of the world's population. Now that we know a little bit more about the history of social media, let's focus on how it influences society. I don't know about you, but I love watching YouTube vlogs of different families that I watch on YouTube and getting lost in wedding boards and recipes on Pinterest. A lot of social media keeps our families updated on what's going on in our lives, but a lot of the time it's used to peep into other people's lives that we either envy or that we're interested in. Influencers on Instagram you can see, influencers on Instagram and YouTube, and it's their jobs to make their lives look more desirable. A lot of the time, influencers are promoting products such as clothing or food or any sort of products. According to blockscrowbox.com, claims that opinions of influencers influence the subconscious of the viewer, potentially priming them when faced with a product-related decision. In other words, they're subconsciously in your mind making these look desirable so that when you're maybe buy the same products that they're advertising, basically. These people have the power over our subconscious and whether we like it or not. Just like people look up and compare themselves to celebrities, people are starting to do that with influencers. I think I can speak for most of us when I say that we've spent moments of our day consumed in the world of social media and naturally beginning to develop a standard of what you think people want to see on social media. Now that we know how easy it is to be sucked into the world of social media, let's see how it affects society and negatively impacts one's self-esteem. People are struggling with being self-conscious because they're comparing themselves to what they see on these platforms. After looking at wedding boards on Pinterest, or perfect weddings, perfect recipes, or perfect looking families on YouTube, people are constantly trying to measure up to what they see on these platforms. According to helpguide.com, FOMO, or the fear of missing out, can compel you to pick up your phone every few minutes to check for updates while you're driving or missing out on sleep, or prioritizing social media interaction over real world relationships. There are even certain social media platforms like TikTok, for example, that have special algorithms to only show good-looking people on their popular pages, or good-looking people, sorry. Girls are beginning to think that they can't measure up to the pretty faces that they see on Instagram and on TikTok. According to Intercept.com, the makers of TikTok, which is a Chinese video sharing app with hundreds of millions of users around the world, are instructed the moderators to suppress posts created by people who were deemed ugly, poor, or disabled. People have started comparing each other's social media accounts to each other. Helpguide.org claims that we're all aware that people tend to share just the highlights of their lives, but people rarely ever show the low points. But that doesn't lessen the feelings of envy and dissatisfaction when you're scrolling through a friend's feed and seeing their airbrushed photos of a tropical beach holiday or reading about their exciting new promotion at work. It seems harmless to read about these posts about people's lives, but it begins to cause envy and discouragement in the user and the person that's using the app. People are becoming embarrassed or discouraged every day. For example, somebody can be posting engagement or pregnancy announcements on Instagram and makes the user feel bad that they're not in that stage of their life yet, and it's making them envious, or it may even cause panic because it may make them feel like they're falling behind in their own life. So they're comparing themselves to other people's life and what stages they're in. Helpguide.org states that multiple studies have found a strong link between heavy social media and increased risk for depression, anxiety, loneliness, and self-harm, and even suicidal thoughts. So now we can review. We just learned a ton of information in a short period about social media and how it affects those who use it. So now, what are the key takeaways that we've learned? We've discussed what it is and what social media is and all the different platforms that we're familiar with. We went over what an influencer is, and we finally looked into how all the influencing and how just regular Instagram users affect society. Not just Instagram, sorry, but like TikTok, Twitter, all of those other platforms. Reflecting back on the quote that I stated earlier, the reason we struggle with insecurity is because we compare our behind the scenes with everybody else's highlight reel. You ask yourself that question. Do you look at your own highlight reel? Do you compare yourself to everyone else's? Or do you feel like your highlight reel doesn't measure up to everybody else's? Pay close attention to those around you who use certain social media accounts. You may notice that most people will experience this issue. Then ask yourself, am I a victim of this also?